everyone. Welcome back to Readaroo Kids. My name's Miss Kristi, and today we're going to read another book about my favorite monkey, but he discovers something beautiful. It's called Curious George Discovers the Rainbow. Let's find out some really cool facts about rainbows. Curious George Discovers the Rainbow. Adaptation by Amy E. Cherich. Based on the TV series Teleplay written by Michael Moorer. George was a good little monkey and always very curious. Sometimes curiosity gets a good little monkey lost in the woods, especially when he's chasing leprechauns. Would you believe that that's how George discovered the rainbow? And it all started on a bright, sunny day. It was a beautiful day in the country. Steve and Betsy were visiting from the city for the first time. George couldn't wait for their outdoor adventure to begin, but first they had to unpack. When Betsy dropped her books, George rushed over to help her pick them up. That's when he saw something he had never seen before. Something amazing. "That's a rainbow, George," said Betsy. "See the pot of gold at the end? And the leprechaun?" Rainbows are always the same 7 colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Rainbows are created by the sun and the rain, Betsy explained. But I can make a rainbow without either. Want to see? A rainbow inside? George could hardly wait. Betsy used scissors to cut a slit in the center of a sheet of paper. Then she taped the paper over a flashlight and shined the light through a fishbowl full of water. The flashlight is like a sunbeam, and the water is like a giant raindrop. The light shines through the water, and behold, Betsy said proudly, a rainbow. George thought Betsy's rainbow was nice, but there was no leprechaun or pot of gold. George wondered if he would ever see a real rainbow that spanned the whole sky. Have you? He looked out the window. White, fluffy clouds floated by. "Looks like a nice day," said the man with the yellow hat. Meanwhile, the man helped Steve prepare for a hike. "Have you ever seen any wild animals?" Steve asked. "We've got skunks and deer. I've seen a moose or 2, the man replied. "A moose?" Steve said. "Now there's something you don't see in the city." At last, it was time for their hike. Outside, the sun was shining, but the temperature was cooler, and more clouds were rolling in. "I'm driving into town to get food for dinner," said the man. Just then, thunder rumbled low in the distance. "If it rains, head home," he added. "George knows the way." George led them into the forest. "I'm not leaving without a picture of a moose," Steve said. Just then, he felt a raindrop. "Oh no, not rain! Do we have to go back already?" "I don't think so," Betsy said. "It's probably going to stop soon. Look, the sun is already peeking through the clouds." Sunlight and rain at the same time. Could this be George's lucky day? Sure enough, when he turned around, there was a huge, colorful rainbow arcing across the sky. His wish had come true. "That's the biggest rainbow I've ever seen," said Betsy. George was excited to have found a rainbow, but he couldn't see the pot of gold from there. Steve was excited too. "I'm climbing this tree to take a picture of the rainbow," he said, scampering high into its branches. George needed a better view too. He knew he was going to find the pot of gold or see a leprechaun. He needed to get closer. So, what do you think he did? George ran off in search of the rainbow's end with Charky close behind. "Charky! George, wait! Betsy yelled, chasing them through the rain. When Betsy finally caught up with them, George tried to explain that he had wanted to reach the pot of gold. But no matter how far or fast he and Charky ran, the rainbow only got further away. The leprechaun with a pot of gold is just a fairy tale, said Betsy. But I guess it couldn't hurt to look just in case. Could it, Steve? But Steve was nowhere in sight. He'll catch up with us, said Betsy. Let's keep going. They hadn't gone far when something small and green hopped through the bushes. Could it be the leprechaun? George thought he must be getting close to the pot of gold now. But it was only a green frog. Usually, George would be happy to meet a frog, but it was no leprechaun. George wasn't disappointed for long, though, because the frog had led him to a second rainbow. Sorry, George, Betsy said. That's not another rainbow. It's only the reflection of the rainbow on the water. How will we keep chasing the rainbow now? We need to cross the river. Here's the reflection right here. The rainbow is reflecting on the water here. Just then, Charky darted through the bushes after the frog and found what they needed most, a boat. Uh-oh, Betsy said as they floated away. How will Steve ever catch up to us now? Meanwhile, Steve realized he was all alone. Charky! Betsy! George! Where are you? He called. Suddenly, something moved in the bushes. What do you think it was? A moose! Steve shouted, snapping a picture. But the moose didn't like Steve's loud voice or his camera. Steve was scared. He was about to call for help when he heard a voice. Back away from the moose, slowly, the boy said. It was George's friend Bill. He knew a lot about the wilderness. And whatever you do, don't frighten it, Bill added. The moose walked off into the forest. When the coast was clear, Bill introduced himself. I'm Bill, and you're lucky I found you. Moose can be dangerous. Hey, I'm Steve, he said to Bill. Since you're so good at finding things, maybe you can help me find my sister and our friend George. I know George, Bill said. Follow me. I saw his friend in town. He'll help us. Steve, said the man. Where are Betsy, Charky, and George? We got separated in the woods, Steve said. I don't know where they went. Just then, something sparkly caught his eye. More rainbows. Oh, yeah, Steve remembered. George saw a rainbow right before they ran off. If I know George, I bet he went to find the gold at the end of the rainbow. I have an idea to help him get home, the man said. When George, Betsy, and Charky reached the shore, daylight was fading and so was the rainbow. George knew they needed to get home before dark. There was only one problem. He didn't know where they were anymore. Suddenly, Charky began to bark. Something was glowing from the end of the rainbow. It must be their pot of gold. George, Betsy, and Charky raced towards the light. They're racing. George, over here, called the man with the yellow balloon. He was standing on the roof of their house holding a bright, shiny balloon that was wearing a very familiar yellow hat. George was happy to be home with his friends. There was no pot of gold, but he knew he had found the real treasure at the end of the rainbow. I loved reading with you today. If you liked this book, be sure to give it a thumbs up below. You can also click on the subscribe button. That way, every time we post a new story, you'll get notified and we can read together again really soon. We always have activities that go along with our books. To get those, head over to readarookids.com. There's also a link in the description. There we do puzzles, games, science experiments, and tons of crafts. If you'd like to get our free monthly activities, follow us on our social media. Again, I loved reading with you today, and I hope that we can read together again soon. Until then, Readaroo loves you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.